Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're glad to have you here. No, I'm not late. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of time to see the awesome new sexy intro that I made for you this morning. Hope you enjoyed it. Yes. Just want to see your responses, reactions to it. Not only am I vain about my appearances, but I'm also vain about the production quality of the show that I make for you every morning. Good morning, good morning. It's the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson, and the price of admission, click that like button. And if you're enjoying the content that you're watching today, make sure that you subscribe as well so that you can come back and join us. The Wake Up America show is every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'd love to hear from you this morning on whatever it is that's on your mind as well. You can text us today at 573-319 1586. Again, the text lines are open. You can hit us up at 573-319-1586. We got a lot of great content for you today, and like they say, it's gonna get spicy in here. The Democrats love slavery. We're going to talk about socialized medicine and other forms of slavery, and it got brought up yesterday, for those of you who aren't on Twitter, when the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire decided to respond to Nina Turner saying that insulin should be free. Nina Turner's this black race pimp who is kind of, a race hustler in the vein of Al Sharpton, right? She's like the newest iteration of it. We're talking about, insulin should be free. And the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire said something to the effect of Nina Turner should be picking cotton for free, which I found hilarious, right? Because I think, obviously this is a joke, right? But it's a joke with a point. And Jake Tapper from CNN and all these left libertarian activists, they all activated their bonus hole mode and started defending Nina Turner and crying, racist, racist, racism, right? Oh, it's so terrible. It's so horrible. How dare you use our own rhetoric against us? How dare someone talk about slavery, even though I brought it up, even though Nina Turner on the 4th of July was, instead of celebrating our shared freedom and our United States of America, was calling the founding fathers, slave holders and racists. And of course, when you call everyone a racist, when everyone's a racist, no one is at that point, right? Got to say thank you to our friend Dwayne Lauderdale. I think we know who that is. As well as our friend John, who became sponsors. It looks like John has been a Cantina crew member for 7 months. He says he loves the smell of Jefferson brewing in the morning. Well, today is a Washingtonian day. I'm drinking George Washington's Revolutionary Roast from apforlibertyshop.com. Make sure if you haven't tried our awesome new coffee brand that you do so today. Again, you can text the show today, 573-319-1586. John Rails DMing me this morning, sliding into the DMs a little bit, John. Good morning, says the coffee smells so good when it's brewing. Tastes even better, John. Hope that you're all enjoying your Founding Flavors coffee. Steffi and I are hoping to become your coffee suppliers in the future, so you can support the ideals of economic freedom and personal liberty with us this morning. We've got a lot of great content for you today. The depopulation agenda out in the open yesterday in a speech, Vice President Kamala Harris, it looks to be fairly coordinated remarks. It wasn't like a slip of the tongue, but just a mask-off moment where she was talking about why we need to reduce population in order to fight climate change. You are the carbon that they want to reduce. We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to debunk some of the arguments against Malthusianism that people like Kamala Harris and the others in the left believe. We're going to get to that in just a few minutes. I'll play that clip. I've also got a clip of a fatal car crash in St. Louis, one of the wildest car crashes that I've seen in my life. I'll play that clip for you this morning, and it's more than just kind of gawking. It's just, it really is one of the most intense videos I have seen of a car crash. Fatal car crash happened in St. Louis. Looks like our buddy Wood Hippie is joining us this morning from the landing zone in Jefferson City over there at the airport. May you fly high, Wood Hippie, and enjoy your lovely day. Thanks so much for texting us this morning. I'm glad that everybody's here. Everybody's ready to have a good conversation, aren't we? Is everybody in a good mood? I guess so. A trans former New Hampshire lawmaker faces federal charges for allegedly using their daycare connections to generate child exploitation images. Absolutely disgusting behavior. We'll talk about that and my thoughts on it in just a few minutes. At 7:30 this morning, we'll have Camelia Peterson. She'll be on a little bit early today. That's a reason to be happy. She's going to comment on the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire controversy, and we'll get into it about Nina Turner. She was talking about, how the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire might not, should probably not use their official accounts to say things like what they said. And her and I will have a spirited discussion about it, and that'll be interesting at 7:30 this morning. You don't want to miss that. Black Hispanic New Yorkers who failed the teacher's test strike $1.8 billion in a settlement in New York City. That's right. Failing the New York State teacher's exam really paid off, especially for a Queens man who learned this month. He's getting a $2 million windfall over it. Yes, trying to become a teacher in the state of New York, if you fail the test and you happen to be a minority, then $1.8 billion of taxpayer dollars could be yours just for not being able to pass a test. It's the largest legal payout in New York City history. 5,200 Black and Hispanic ex Big Apple teachers and once expiring educators are expected to collect more than $1.8 billion. We'll talk about that after I speak to Camellia, and we'll have a good time. Today's going to be a fun show. At 8 o'clock this morning, Elizabeth Matthew from the Independent Women's Forum has done a book review of Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri's Manhood book, the Manhood, the Masculine Virtues America Needs. He relies on tales of his own family, biblical stories, and philosophies of both manhood and citizenship to argue that American men must cultivate courage and commitment. Elizabeth Matthews' review was quite scathing, and we'll talk a little bit about that at 8 o'clock with Elizabeth. At 8:35 this morning, the lovely Daniela Pensack is going to talk us. Jason Aldean, we mentioned it yesterday, and I played a little bit of his music video. We talked about Try That in a Small Town, which if you haven't heard or seen it, I mean, it's driving the left insane. I think I saw Sheryl Crow yesterday was even coming out and condemning him. Like the left is just on full-blown attack mode against Jason Aldean. You can make actual threats of violence, you can make actual racist statements, you could do actual violence as a leftist. But if a conservative dares whisper that if you try that in our hometown, that you're going to get what's coming to you, then all of a sudden the left loses their mind. This is going to be an absolutely awesome show. It's going to be spicy from top to bottom. So I hope that you're ready and you brought your big boy and your big girl panties, because we're going to be using some rhetoric that might not be PC. Are you ready? Are you ready? All right, let's rock and roll. Let's start the show with the Vice President Kamala Harris talking a little bit about the depopulation agenda of the left. Mask off. Here we go.
And when we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
There you go. Now, some people thought when they had just read the transcripts afterwards that maybe she was just speaking off the cuff, but this is a plan off the cuff. This was a planned and prepared speech by the vice president. So what she's saying here is deliberate. You don't often get the left explicitly saying that they have a depopulation agenda. But when the vice president of the United States says it in such a way in a planned and prepared speech, you know that it is official policy. So let's hear that one more time.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population.
Right, there it is. So this is what there was a philosopher by the name of Thomas Malthus, and his philosophy nowadays still being spread by the left, frequently referred to as Malthusianism. And their argument is that population growth will outgrow the amount of resources that people will be able to use to take care of themselves or to take care of the current population, and that we are on an unsustainable growth path. So when you look at statistics, I mean, this is how, when you have a statistic, people can look at it from one of two ways. When you look at a statistic like what's happening in birth rates in Japan, they're failing to replace themselves. The left sees that as a positive thing. Now, ask any Japanese person and they will tell you that it is not a positive thing. It's not a good thing. And one of the major reasons why it's not a good thing is because of their aging population. Now think about this. When you're a socialist and you believe in that the young people should be forced to work to take care of the elder generation, to pay for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You need a growing population to be able to take care of the senior citizens who are going to be on these programs if you want a social safety net to actually be funded. But how can you have a depopulation agenda on one hand and then also have a social safety net on the other hand? Who are you going to get to actually pay for the social safety net, right? People still believe in this today, the idea that we're going to be that we're heading into overpopulation. Population growth is going to exceed our resource availability. But the fascinating thing about that is that you frequently won't hear the left arguing for population control in places like Africa. It does happen, right, where Bill Gates and others will go into these countries and they'll introduce vaccines and education. And what's fascinating about education is that the more educated people are, the fewer children they have, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon on that. But and that is like its own topic to debate. But Malthusianism is this idea that we are going to outgrow our resources, but capitalism proves that wrong. Technological advancements throughout history have consistently improved living standards and resource efficiency. So we're actually getting more with less. And no matter what you feel about genetically modified organisms or GMO crops, you cannot argue with the fact that genetically modified wheat, corn, and other vegetables that companies like Monsanto and others have bioengineered, we now can sustain the larger population because we now have grain. You can grow more grain and fatter grain on a smaller amount of land, and that's technological advancement, right? Be it by being able to bioengineer our crops, we can now sustain a larger population. So this is another argument against overpopulation. Economic growth and development have been associated with declining birth rates because as countries undergo economic progress, there's a shift towards urbanization, improved education, and better health care. And those factors have historically led to a decline in birth rates, which stabilizes population growth, right? There's not an overpopulation problem because as we get denser and more urbanized and more educated and have better health care, fewer people are going to be born because more educated people have fewer children, and they can sustain themselves. Dwayne Lauderdale says that Malthusianism is based on the fixed pie economic view, which is a logical fallacy that somehow gets attention from policymakers. That's a brilliant point, Duel, and it reminds me of an important point here. The reason why lawmakers, I believe, in many of them, some of them are just ignorant, or some of them are plain evil, but a lot of them, because they dwell in the world of politics. Politics is a zero sum game, but the economy is not. Politics is a zero sum game because if you're running for office and you win, I lose, right? If I run for office and I win, you lose, right? So that's a zero sum game. But the economy is not like that. If I have an Xbox, that doesn't preclude you from having an Xbox. If I have you can also have an Xbox, right? So the economy is not a fixed pie. There's not only a certain amount of resources that can go around. By engaging in voluntary trade, we can actually increase the total pie, the amount of wealth, because of one, our productivity. And I'm not going to get into all these boring things, but you know this, right? So anyways, another good argument against the depopulation agenda of the globalist elites. Many countries have experienced what is known as demographic transition, where birth rates decline as societies undergo social and economic changes. As living conditions improve, people tend to have fewer children, resulting in population stabilization. That when living conditions are at their worst, children will die in childbirth or they won't live as long. Then people will have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 children because they know that, a few of them might actually make it to adulthood, right? Another good argument against the Malthusian agenda of Kamala Harris and the left, the resource management and conservation argument. The argument against overpopulation emphasizes the importance of effective resource management and conservation practices. By adopting sustainable practices like renewable energy or responsible land use and efficient resource allocation, societies ensure the availability of resources for present and future generations. One of the better uses of resource management for us would be to invest more into nuclear power, but don't explain that to the left because, of course, they don't want us to build nuclear power. If we have more nuclear power, then we might be able to sustain a larger population. And of course, people like Kamala Harris don't want us to have a large population, do they? If you're just tuning in the Wake Up America show, we're glad to have you here today. Make sure you click that like button. I hope you're enjoying the content. And if you are, subscribe to the channel that you're watching us on. We appreciate that very much. You can also do us a favor. Over on Rumble, we got 50 people watching us now. That's awesome. 10 people have clicked like, though. Do you think we can get to 25 likes by the end of the show? We would appreciate that very much. If you haven't, make sure you click that like button. We appreciate all of our viewers and listeners this morning who are helping us out today. Looks like we've got a nice, good amount of people today. 55 over on Rumble, 35 over on YouTube, and climbing. It's been exciting to watch the rise of the Wake Up America show as we have started to grow on multiple platforms. We're getting to the point now where we're starting to average about 100 viewers live amongst our multiple platforms. And I just want you to know all of you to know how grateful I am. My wife and I, Stephanie, who is like my right hand in this business, helping us to get everything on its feet. We're going to be out for a few days on the 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th of this month because we're shooting a documentary, Bleed American, The Battle of Athens. And we could use your help, actually. If you've been checking out our coffee, look at our apforlibertyshop.com website. We've launched a new coffee brand, and the proceeds that we raise from this goes to help us to fund our documentary. Our coffee is, it's a little bit each brand is like a different roast. You've got light medium. Here's a medium roast. Franklin's Electric Elixir, Washington's Revolutionary Roast. That's what I'm drinking today. Oh, there we go. Washington's Revolutionary Roast, which is absolutely delicious medium roast that you can get there. And celebrating our first president, Benjamin Franklin's Electric Elixir. That one is sure to wake you up. Jeffersonian Java, a light roast, which you would think, oh, it's light. Oh, it's got lots of caffeine though. So the lighter the roast, the higher the caffeine content. And of course, our popular blend, Adam's Patriotic Perk. That's our most popular brand right there because people love the dark roast, and I do too. But for those of you who can't stand vaccines, haha, Freudian slip, who can't stand caffeine, we've got Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, and she's a cute little sexy Betsy Ross over there on the front. So you can get that at apforlibertyshop.com. Get yourself a bag today. Help support the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. Remember, if you buy more than one of these bags, go to the bundles page because there's 2 pages on the site. One is just for people who are buying like one at a time. But if you buy more than one, the discount starts adding up. So like 2 bags is 5% off, 3 bags is 10% off, 4 bags is 12% off. And if you really like the coffee and you want to make the switch, you can become a 1, 2, or 3 month subscriber so you can get it in the mail every few months. Okay. Okay, good to see you. Nice to see you, Sarah Palacios. Today's going to be a very exciting show. I can't wait to see and hear from Camellia Peterson and what the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire said and comparing socialized medicine to slavery, and really pissed off the leftist activists in the Libertarian Party, as well as people like Jake Tapper and others at CNN, who are all race hustlers, race pimps, and who finally got their rhetoric turned around on them. Camellia and I are going to have an interesting discussion about it. Should be fascinating. We're going to have her on the show in a little bit less than 10 minutes. But I saw this unbelievable car crash video in St. Louis yesterday. You want to take a look at this? I mean, this is one of the most insane car crash videos I said. And just so you know, the person who was driving unfortunately didn't make it. So understand that if you've got kids, maybe not the best thing to watch right now. It's not gory or anything, but it is intense. All right, let's take a look at this. Right, look at that. Check this out. You see it coming from the left here. I mean, that looks like a movie right there. See how it crashed into the house. All right, so we'll slow it down a little bit, right? So you can see the car coming in from the left, and you don't see what it is that really kind of caused it to ramp here, but it obviously had gone up. Maybe the person fell asleep or something like that. Oh, you could take a look at it over there on the left. But look at this, flying through the air, and watch this, right into the side of somebody's house. Boom. And then end over end. This is in Kingston Drive in LeMay, St. Louis, right there. Seen driving right through a house. Bam. Thankfully, nobody else was harmed in it. It was an unbelievable crash. It happened in St. Louis. And then it was just, in an ironic twist of fate, there was another story that came out that showed that St. Louis drivers, apparently some of the absolute worst drivers in the country. No surprise there. All right, well, is socialism slavery? Is it fair to use the same racialized tactics that the left uses against you? Are you a racist? Well, what kind of question is that? Well, we'll ask Camellia Peterson when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hannah Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy Bush to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. We're glad to have you here. If you're enjoying the content today, make sure you click like and subscribe. There's that little flare button up there in the top Well, I guess that's top right-hand corner for you of your screen. I'm pointing up and to the left. Click that subscribe button on Rumble, YouTube, or wherever you're watching us this morning. And if you're listening to us later on the audio version of the podcast, we're glad to have you here. But definitely try and tune in to the show when it's live, because the urgency of the Wake Up America show is just so much better. It's nice to have this live experience, knowing that when you're seeing these interviews, when you're seeing me talking, everything that's going on is happening right now, as it is for me. But for you, it's happening later. But for me, it's happening right now. Joining me right now is the lovely Kamala Peterson. A little bit earlier than usual. Kamala, to what do we owe the pleasure?
Good morning. Just a very full day today and starting early. And we have candidates to interview and trainings to do. And so it's part of the job.
All right. Well, Kamala, I want to give you like the chance to sort of explain, first of all, what all of this hubbub and commotion is, because I'm sure that people who maybe they don't live life perpetually online, or maybe they don't even get on Twitter at all, they have no idea what the context of this is and why we're all talking about slavery and insulin and socialized medicine and racism. How did this all come about? Will you just kind of give us the Reader's Digest version of what went down yesterday?
Sure. So this Nina Turner, which, by the way, I was trying to explain to somebody last night who that was. And I was like, wait, is she like, why is she famous? Why do we care about who she is? Is she like a, celebrity or what? Because I was thinking Tina Turner. But it's been really confusing for me. But no, anyway, so like she's been doing this for a while, and people have been, hitting her for it for a while, as far as, making these inflammatory remarks that are socialist in nature, of course, and racist in nature, of course, except for, reverse racism, if that's such a thing. And so the latest thing she came out with that you mentioned earlier was that she was saying things like insulin should be free and that should be free, and there has been this push, people, because insulin is very expensive, where they think, well, healthcare is a right, so that should be free for everyone. So of course, people are, coming back at her with things, especially libertarians. And the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire Twitter account was certainly no exception, and they were true to form, in true LPNH form. And they said, Nina Turner picking crops should be free.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, that's racist. Oh my God. No, boo.
No, God, please,
oh, horrible.
No.
How dare they say so? So wait a minute. So Libertarian Party of New Hampshire took her racist. So first of all, I believe she's a racist, so I'm going to refer to as such, like Al Sharpton and other race pimps like that. Right, absolutely. So are you telling me that somebody took her own rhetoric and used it against her?
I am. And I actually first saw this because Brad Palumbo commented on it. And, he did not agree with how they approached that. And of course, therein started the discussion, because I had to, comment. And I don't agree with it either. Not because I don't think that it shouldn't be done, because, I have a great appreciation for snark and for mocking people who, say really stupid things. The distinction for me is doing it from an official organization account versus your own private individual account. I think that there should be a distinction there.
Okay. Fine. Okay, so let's put that aside. But that is such a flimsy argument. You're not addressing the actual meat of the argument here. You're not talking about strategy. You're talking about tactics. And we can argue about tactics all day long, and tactics can be, subjective. But what matters is, at the end of the day, is that we drive our opponents from the field and we hear the lamentations of their women, right? These are not people who are ever going to be our allies. These are our enemies. These are our stated enemies. These are the people who stand against everything that we stand for. These are people who, the difference between Nina Turner and Nick Fuentes is, one, the races that they hate, and two, that Nick Fuentes is derided and demonized and Nina Turner is celebrated. Am I wrong?
Okay. Well, yes, it depends on who you're talking to.
Right. But answer this. It was what the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire said. Was it wrong? Was it? Do you think that it was like morally wrong, or was it not an apt comparison in your mind? Do you think that socialized medicine is not slavery?
I think that it was an apt comparison. My issue with it is not so much that it is incorrect or that it was not justified. As a matter of, well, when you talk about tactics and strategy, I think we have to talk about what's the end goal of this. I mean, what's the end goal for the LPNH in tweeting something like this at her? Because and yes, there is a goal for people responding to that to present the opposite side of that and to mock that and to show how ridiculous that idea is. But when you're talking about what's your end goal, what do you accomplish with that in the long term? This is Twitter. Like, what do we do? Like, is it going to make a difference in policy in the long run? I think it's arguable that it doesn't. And I think that for me, I look at it through the lens too, like I mentioned, that they're doing this from the organization account. And if you're talking about what is the purpose of the LP? Now I know that you said something about like they're the little merry band of
I was like,
men
well,
who are, the
yeah,
sheriff.
they're not really an organization, much as more of a merry band of pranksters running raids on the local sheriffs of Nottingham.
Right. And so that's the things I was talking to somebody last night, and his point was, okay, if they're going to do something like that, yes. Is it justified? Yes. Is it effective? Maybe so. Is it wrong for them to do it from an organ account? Maybe not. But there's no point in what they're doing with it because they don't. He said, if you're trying to reach people who and draw more people to the libertarian movement who are maybe aligned with you in some things, but they don't know everything about you, but they see the ridiculousness of that and that pulls them in. Okay, you've done that. But then do you then go ahead and present? Do you teach beyond that? Do you present your nuanced argument that backs up why you shit post?
Right. Do
And
you
the
troll
LPNH
because you
never does
care?
that.
Right. No, you're
Right.
right. Do you troll because you care? Do you actually point people towards resources? Once you've gotten people's attention and you have their attention, which is valuable, do you actually go beyond that and explain to people why taxation is theft, why socialized medicine is slavery, and point them towards good economic fundamental arguments that will change their minds? That is a good argument, and it's one that I'm sensitive to. However, this is war. We are in an ideological war against people like Nina Turner and others. So we're not trying to convince or change the mind of people like Nina Turner or Jake Tapper. They're our enemies, right?
No.
I've got people saying all sorts of racist insults to me this morning on Twitter. Nobody's going to defend me, okay? Nobody's going to go out there. There's not going to be any news articles, not even like Breitbart or like even right-wing orgs are going to go out there and say, that this is terrible and awful and people shouldn't be calling white Austin a cracker and all these kinds of things, right? But these insults don't bother me. And I honestly don't think that they really bother Nina Turner. I think people like her use race and slavery and stuff as a grift in order for them to grow their influence, grow their Twitter followers, and make more money at the end of the day. So, I mean, these are our enemies. And so, to me, you don't treat your friends like you treat your enemies. My problem with the libertarians is and especially the people who are attacking like the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire over this, is that, they've all gone into bonus hole mode, right? They're a bunch of weenies and they'll use these tactics like slander, defaming, libeling, doxing. Like I was saying yesterday, libertarians will commit all manner of evil against one another for a difference of 0.01% between one another. But for some of them, the left libertarians, really the libertarian socialists, or again, the bonus, let's just call them what they are, the bonus hole libertarians, right? They will all of a sudden rise up in defense of a black leftist who is our enemy because somebody might have actually hurt their feelings. And my argument is that you're not going to nice your way to liberty. Okay. And here's the thing, Camellia, by admitting what you admitted earlier on the show, when you said that what the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire said is an apt comparison, you are a racist to them, right? You like, she is, am I wrong? Is anything I said wrong?
You're right. No, I think you're right. I just think that it's in terms of effectiveness. There's a difference in elevating something and bringing it to everyone's attention and then actually doing something productive and effective with it. Now, when I was thinking about this and I think about the Libertarian Party, I think about, some of the most sane, reasonable, quality people that I can think of in the LP. And those are people like Spike Cohen and like Dave Smith, who I think have appeal beyond just the little typical LP bubble of people.
But you're arguing
And
strategy and tactics. You're not arguing the principle of the thing, right? So that
well, okay,
so
but what I mean, if you can't use you've got
are
to
we not
have
allowed? Are we
strategy to
not
win the
allowed to
war.
use? But are we not allowed to use the same tactics and strategies that are used against us? I mean, that's the thing. Is like, are we supposed to? Are we supposed to lay down our arms and say that that the left, if they're going to pull out claymores and broadswords, no, we're not allowed to use those same weapons against them? They use race as a weapon. Right, for them it is a sword, and then when we actually take their weapon and use it against them, it's all of a sudden it's, oh, we're victims. Oh no, please don't do it. Please don't use this against us. It reminds me a little bit of this quote I've heard a couple of weeks ago. When I am weak, I cry for freedom because that is according to your principles. When I am strong, I use freedom against you because that is according to my principles. When they're weak, they want to appear strong. When they're strong, they want to appear weak. And they do this as a method of abuse in order to advocate for their principles. When does the left ever use a teaching moment for socialism? No, they hit us over the head. They use the hammer and the sickle as tools and weapons to slit our throats. So when one of ours actually gets on their side and draws blood, like, I smelled it yesterday and I got excited. I was like shark attack mode. It's time to go. Like,
Yeah, I know.
we've got to. We have too many nerds and not enough street fighters. Camellia, am I wrong?
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. I do think that the difference between when the left, Nina Turner and the like come out and they say, outrageous things like this, and the difference between the left's approach to things and the right's approach or the libertarian approach is that you can both say things and garner outrage and do all of this stuff, but then the libertarians and the right, they stop at that and then they expect you to be logical about everything. You should know this because it's logical and I've got your attention now and you should just get it because it's logical. The left does not do that. The left doesn't just say outrageous things, but then they're giving you every sob story and every kind of, thing like that to pull on your heartstrings that they can, because that's what's effective. That's what works with people. And that's one of the things that when somebody was going back and forth with me a little bit yesterday on this, that was their point, is like, it's not logical. I'm like, you know what? If you can't be relatable to people first, they won't hear your logic. So you have to be relatable first and then logical.
It's fine. You're arguing tactics and strategy, and that is well, but
I want to win.
Okay, I do too. But again, sometimes the way to win is to cut the enemy's throat. And one of the ways that you cut their throat is you take their own weapons and you use them against them. It's what the LP of New Hampshire said was not racist. It was tongue in cheek, right? It was humorous. Okay. And another point that I want to make on this one here is, I guess another question that I want to ask you, but before I do, I have to say thank you to John Turner, who made a super chat, which we appreciate. He says, Uncle Sam's Plantation, How Big Government Enslaves America's Poor and What We Can Do About It. A book by Star Parker is worth reading in this contest. Thank you for that. We appreciate you, John. So I guess my question for you is do you believe that socialized medicine, forcing doctors, healthcare workers, and the taxpayers to fund someone's healthcare that blows up to 650 pounds and needs insulin because they didn't take care of themselves their entire lives and they were a smoker and because they knew that Uncle Sam was going to pay for it, is socialized medicine slavery?
Sure. I think anytime that
Pause. That's the principle, okay? And that's important.
Yes.
And so so now that we've established the principle, we can argue about tactic, strategy, or whatever. Why is it slavery?
Well, I think it's slavery because you are indebted. It's being taken from you. The product of your labor is being given to someone else, and you get nothing out of that.
Mm-hmm. Right. If taxation of 100% of your income is slavery, at what percentage is it not? It's a great question to ask, isn't it? Wouldn't you? I'd love to hear from our listeners, though. They can always text the show at 573 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. See, the thing is John Burroughs, he says, I don't know, maybe I need to think on it. I think a lot of normies got turned off by the message, but you're right. There's no such thing as a fair fight, right? It is difficult. Aya Katz is chiming in. Good morning, Aya. Nice to see you. How's Bo? She says, Camelia, you were saying logic has to be hidden forever because people will never be logical. Interesting. So see, we're having a nice little bit of pugilism this morning between us, but it's all friendly because we are all on the same side here. But we shouldn't treat our friends the way that we treat our enemies. And my biggest problem with libertarians, we're talking about tactics and strategy, is they treat their friends the same way or even worse than they treat their enemies. And we agree with the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. We may not agree with their strategy all the time. We may not agree with their tactics all the time. Some of the things that they do absolutely turns people off. But who else is going to drive? When you have your enemy on the defense, right, you're doing something right. I don't agree with everything Donald Trump has said or has done. I wish that he would show a little bit more decorum, Camelia, like I agree with you. But at the end of the day, the reason why people are putting Andrew Tate's and Donald Trump's and Nick Fuentes and all of these people who you may consider to be deplorable on one scale or another, the reason why they're putting these people out is not just because of, oh, it's fun and exciting and they're saying things that are getting clicks and making money and all this stuff. There's a grift, sure. But Donald Trump actually took the ball and started moving it down the field in the other direction because people on our side, frankly, are tired of losing. Am I wrong?
I think that that's true. And I was thinking about Trump too, just when you mentioned that, because I think that that's a similar analogy. And I think that there is a time and a place for those kind of things. I think that there is a time for disruptors like Trump was. I think it's limited in its application and how it can be effective. And for example, with Trump, I think that he served his purpose as a disruptor and shaking things up. He did not do all of the things that he claimed to do. But I think that there was purpose and value in what he did in the country at that time. I think that time is done. I think that to carry on with that same approach will now be harmful, which is why I think that in the long run, the LP, as an official organization account, out of New Hampshire, because there's a lot of disagreement, obviously, in LP chapters from state to state regarding this. But I think that
but
in the
why?
long run,
But who cares, right? I left the LP, right? I'm a Republican now, but I mean, to me, the Libertarian Party as it exists is really just, to me, it operates as kind of like a hit squad in some sense, right? Mercenaries, right? Barbarians that you hire. It's kind of like, if you've ever seen the movie Braveheart, you probably have not, but you hire mercenaries and Celts to go out and to act as skirmishers, and they go and they pick a fight, and then you take your knights and your archers and you do the job of cleaning up whatever's left over, right? And it's not to denigrate the Libertarian Party people and things like that, but at the end of the day, if they're not an organized force, they're not an organized army, then what are they, right? They're Celts, right? They're mercenaries, and you hire them to do a job. They go out, they pick a fight, they start a fight, and once the fight is started, then Stephanie, you as a bishop or a rook on the battlefield, your job is to go, or let's say we'll call you the queen if we're using chess references. Then your job as the queen is to move in any direction as much as you want, Camelia, and to pick up the pieces of the people who are on the battlefield who have got cuts and bruises and scrapes, and to be beautiful and to nurse their wounds and to then bring them over to the side of England. Do you like this analogy?
I do like this analogy, and I'm a big fan of. I think that we need a lot. I've heard a lot of people say, okay, well, our country is just set up for two parties, blah blah blah. Whatever. That's the only thing that's going to function. Okay, fine. I think that third parties like the LP are valuable in that there needs to be somebody kind of stirring that pot and making sure nobody gets too comfortable. But when it comes to, because, one of the things that people in the LP, and I think that they're drawn to it because it gives them, most people, I think, it gives them some kind of hope that maybe they can see liberty in my lifetime. How many times have you heard that phrase? And they do want to believe. People don't stay if they don't think that there's a path to winning. They want to feel like that they can win.
Yes.
And so the thing is the only way that you can win in the LP is, or, you know, in politics in general, or with your ideas, is if you are winning elections or if you are winning hearts and minds. If you are not doing either of those things, I'm not sure that you're serving any functional purpose.
But my point is, Camelia, they're not going to win elections. They're not
Right.
really, I mean, and I know that this people are going to disagree with this, but they're not supposed to win elections. Okay. My story earlier, I guess is a metaphor, or is it an analogy, or I have no idea. I can't remember. It's a little too early and I haven't had enough of my coffee yet. But they're supposed to pick a fight, right? The job of the skirmisher is to go out there and to harass the enemy and to find out what the troop strength is of the other enemy, get them to reveal themselves, show themselves on the battlefield, find out, how many of them are they. We'll have a few scouts come back to our main force, right? You and I, we can play nice and we can go out and we can say, oh, well, we've got, it's much better if you all just join England, and, the Normans need to go back to France, and we need to have a unified Anglo-Saxon, England and America for Americans, right? But the point here that I'm saying is, Camelia, is that they serve that purpose by driving the enemy off, by putting their enemy off kilt, so that we can go in and we can mop up the mess, right? It's your job to go in there and to educate people about in the tweets about why socialized medicine is slavery. Is it not? I mean, they're clearly not cut out for that. But, and again, I hate to sound like an elitist here, but you don't send out the barbarians and the mercenaries to go and do the job of outreach and doing all that stuff. That's not what they're cut out for, right? They're brawlers. It's the same reason that you hire the U.S. Marines. The Marines' job is to go out there and break stuff, to break shit and kill people, right? So that's what they do. But then it's the job of the State Department to clean up the mess, right? To do an outreach and explain why the United States is the greatest country in the world, and that countries should be our friends because they sure as hell don't want to be our enemies, right? And say what you will about American foreign policy, at the end of the day, it can be quite effective in convincing people that if you're not for us, you better not be against us. And I feel like libertarians, being giant bonus holes to a large extent, our enemies don't fear us. They laugh at us. But when they're attacking us, it's because they're afraid. Is anything that I've said incorrect?
I don't think it's incorrect, although I think that some of the people who are kind of prominent in that circle of libertarian people who are doing this would probably disagree with you. You just insulted them in a way.
Yes,
but,
I know.
But
well,
I mean,
not everybody can be a knight.
I do think that there is a difference, when you talk about how do you make change happen? Because this is the constant thing, especially, now that I'm neck deep in politics and grassroots engagement. And the end goal is always like, how do we make people more free? How do we get more liberty? How do we reduce the size of government? How do we achieve our policy goals? And, to do that, you've got to get the right people in there that are making those laws to make those changes. And so that's always the challenge, is what is effective and what works in that. And this is something that's constantly going around in my mind. It's something that I was meeting with people last night, because when you talk about what actually makes change and what gets passed in our legislatures and the people that we elect to do that, the typical grassroots movement, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's in groups on the ground in Missouri or anywhere else, when you really step back and look at it, a lot of the times it is largely ineffective, because they tend to go off on, rabbit trails and down conspiracy holes. And then they don't end up actually they don't get to the logic part of things. They get hung up, ironically, on the things that, tickle their outrage and, evoke those emotions, but you don't ever get to the solutions part of things. And so I think that that's the challenge in things like this is, I don't think that, Republican Party official accounts can get away with this, maybe like the LP.
No.
Because like they are in reality, if we're talking realistically and, making actual change, those parties that are taken more seriously as being the vehicles for that change, that's not going to be
those
accepted.
those are our knights, those are our bishops, right? Those are the rooks. right? And they should go forth with a different strategy and a different tactic, but with the same understanding, with the same goal of defeating the left, right? We all have the same goal. We're all on the same side. We're all on the same team. We all want to, but we'll have different strategies. We'll all have different tactics. We'll all be trained to do different things. But we all want to defeat the left, and we should all have the same principle. And that principle is taxation is theft, and socialized medicine is
slavery.
Yeah, thank you, Camellia. Let's give her a round of applause. She said it. Well, you're a racist, Camellia. Hope you understand. Hope you understand. I hope that you feel good about yourself for being a racist, and
my self-esteem is just
Camellia, I gotta go speak to Elizabeth Matthews. She's going to do a book review on Senator Josh Hawley's Manhood. I think you're going to like it. I actually think you're going to like it.
Wait.
But before we go, is there anybody here that wants to? Is there anything else that you want to share before we let you go?
Oh no, I just I was like, do we have to talk about Josh Hawley's manhood this morning? Like,
we're going to talk about his
please?
Large manhood, bonus holes and manhood. It's Camellia, thanks so much for your time.
Decorum.
Keeping it classy, keeping it decorum. Have a good one, Camellia. You're the epitome of class, a veritable queen on the chessboard. Have a wonderful day. That's Camellia Peterson. What do you think? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. All right, well, we'll get that book review when we get back, and we'll keep it classy. Lots of decorum. Elizabeth Matthews when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Man, gotta play some Age of Empires in the booth.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How do you think that Camellia did in that last segment? Pretty good stuff, right? Great conversation. It gets very spicy here in the mornings. That's how we like to start it, but I like a little Tabasco sauce on my eggs. How about you? And a nice, delicious cup of coffee with some caffeine. Check out apforlibertyshop.com. If you haven't already, we've got a delicious brand new line of Founding Flavors coffees. Coffee modeled after our very first president, George Washington's Revolutionary Roast, as well as Jeffersonian Java. Don't forget to check out Franklin's Electric Elixir as well. And for those of you who like the taste of coffee but who don't want all the caffeine, we've got a delicious Betsy's Liberty Lullaby with our lovely Betsy Ross there in the cover. I don't think I can get it on the camera there. So check that out and get yourself a bag at apforlibertyshop.com. And if you like the coffee and you want to get regular deliveries, you can get a discount for your monthly, 2-month, or 3-month subscription models. Check that out on the bundles page of the website. We'll be super grateful. And if you like the show, don't forget to like the stream that you're watching us right now on and subscribe to the channel so that you can get updates when we go live every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. I'm your host, Austin Peterson, rocking and rolling in the free world. Well, let's have a little bit of fun while it's free. The senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley, wrote a book about his manhood. Okay, no, not that manhood. I just couldn't resist the jokes. Camellia got me started on that. I haven't read the book. I will admit I don't want to be a liar, so I just bring on guests who do the homework for me. Elizabeth Grace Matthew is going to be joining us in just a moment. She is a visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and a contributor to Young Voices, as well as an op-ed contributor to The Hill magazine. And she's joining us now live on the line. Good morning, Elizabeth. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
So Josh Hawley, obviously people who know me know my past. I competed against him in the 2018 Republican Senate primary, quite unsuccessfully, if you will. But I learned a lot about Senator Hawley in that time, and I was actually a little surprised to see that he had written a book about manhood or masculinity, because say what you will about him, like when I think about Senator Josh Hawley, he's kind of more of an egghead. I think I remember there was one time when he posted a photograph of him out hunting with like a brand new gun, brand new hunting clothes, looked like they had never been worn before. I think I saw the price tag was still on one of the Carhartt things that he had. But you read his book Manhood, and you found it wanting, perhaps. Would you like to share with us a little bit about your thoughts?
Sure, absolutely. So Senator Hawley's book argues that men in America today are not doing particularly well, right? There's a crisis. And I think he's right about that, right? There's obviously a lot that is not going super well for boys in school. That's not going super well for men professionally. There's the opioid crisis, as well as, deaths of despair, suicide, et cetera. And so a lot of men are really not performing in the way that we might like to see them perform as fathers, as husbands, as professionals, et cetera. And so Senator Hawley's argument is that this can be blamed on what he calls the Epicurean elites, right? The people that create institutions that don't respond to men's needs, that have become hostile to the virtues of bravery and responsibility and independence, and have overemphasized empathy and collaboration and tolerance. And I think there's a lot to that. I just think that there's a lot to be learned from the idea of not taking everything that goes wrong and blaming it on someone else, right? And so I think the sort of victimology that Senator Hawley would criticize in other groups, he kind of deploys on behalf of men. Yeah.
This is something that I talk about quite frequently on my show, and I explain it as a concept of like a locus of control, where someone who has a high internal locus of control is someone who, when they have a problem or there's an accident or a mistake or there's a failure, they say, well, this is my fault. I take responsibility for this, and I look inward for the solutions, and I am in charge of my destiny. I am the one who needs to step up and make a change in my life in order to change the outcomes that I seek. But somebody who has a high external locus of control, Elizabeth, is someone who says, well, it's the global elites, or it's the Jews, or it's the chemtrails, or it's what, it's external forces that are acting on us that are creating all of my problems. And if only I could change the world and Bill Gates would finally die, then we could finally be free and I wouldn't have to breathe in toxic chemicals from the air and we could find out, who actually shot JFK, if you will. So are you arguing essentially that Hawley has a high external locus of control? It's other people's are to blame for the problems of masculinity?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I think he does. And I think that he would dispute that high external locus of control for a lot of other people, right? But I think that he maintains it for men. And I understand that part of that is to sort of get their buy-in to his project, right? But I don't think it serves them well.
Now, talk to us about this idea of masculinity being in crisis in the United States, because you say that you do agree with that, right? His premise is not flawed, but his prescription to it is. Can you expand on that?
Sure. So when Senator Hawley says that masculinity is in crisis, I guess I dispute the word masculinity a little bit, because part of what I argue is that it's independence and responsibility, really adulthood, that are in crisis. And I think that that is those virtues are as applicable to women as to men. It's just that they are often demonstrated differently by men than by women. And I think we have become hostile to many of the ways in which they're often demonstrated traditionally by men. But I think we've also become hostile to them and women in a lot of ways too. I think that for Senator Hawley, he is making the point that a lot of boys and men's needs for more traditional authority, for more physical activity, are not being met by a lot of our culture institutions, which are controlled by an extreme left, right? Like not sort of the modal Democratic voter, but people that have really extreme ideas about what children need that are not the modal American's idea for the average boy or, frankly, the average girl.
You write in this piece, according to Hawley, elites, Epicureanism, and secularism are largely to blame for males' increasing educational, health, and employment woes. First of all, if you don't mind me asking, Elizabeth, are you religious?
I am, yes.
Which denomination?
I'm a practicing Catholic.
Okay, I just would be curious. So you might agree with Hawley on the question of secularism.
I don't agree with him like to the letter, but I think broadly he makes a point that I agree with, yes.
Okay, can you expand on that for me?
Sure. I think that it's really hard to individualize these virtues for every family, right? So when there's not some broader structure that people feel that they are, responsible to, it's very hard on individuals to maintain all these different virtues and ideas that we want our children to possess and that we want our children to behave in accordance with. And I think that religion, whatever you think of its, veracity or not, or usefulness or not in other ways, one thing it did was to build a community where people had more adults in more authority around them, and also a broader framework in which to put these virtues so that they don't just sound like, well, you think these virtues are important and I think these ones are important and we can just disagree all day. It's a way of contextualizing which virtues are important that a lot of people accepted.
I think that it would be hard for me to argue with you on the concept of having good mature leadership and values and being surrounded by that. I do, it is a challenge. I am a secular humanist myself, but it is a challenge to find a community of people like that, because largely, being a libertarian and being an agnostic places me as a minority within a minority within a minority, right? It can be difficult to find people whose values that I can adhere to, that I can, build up as a community. But, being sort of a prominent public figure as myself, I have a little bit of an easier time finding connections, good personal connections that I can bring into and share a sort of familial bond with. But I guess I wonder, and how you would, thinking about something like a secular humanist versus a Scientologist. I mean, would it be better to be a Scientologist? I mean, is it better to have, to be in a cult versus, having no religion? I mean, on some level, like, even in being a practicing Catholic as yourself, you'd probably somebody rather be an atheist or an agnostic versus being a jihadist.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I don't think there's
atheists and agnostics aren't flying, planes into buildings.
No, I don't think there's any question about that. I certainly am drawing less on any particular ideas associated with Catholicism or any other religion, and more on the fact that these often create community, at least in America, and at least in the ways that they're typically practiced. Obviously, any belief system that leads to extremes of harming others is not a belief system that I or anyone should endorse. But I think that a lot of the values of community and a lot of the values of faithful husbands and present fathers are endorsed by a lot of religious communities, be they Jewish or Catholic or Muslim, that are very helpful to young people and particularly to young boys.
Would it be better served as a nation, would you say, that we all adhere to the classical liberal values of the foundation, or that we do away with those in favor of a traditionalist moral worldview and stand united in our religion alone? Or, in other words, what I'm asking here is it better that we all live in a free country and a free nation and a constitution that governs us all and hangs its lofty principles above each of our religions, and then have religions underneath that, or should we be governed by a theocracy in a sense?
Yeah,
Because
no, I'm
people,
a
it does seem as if Hawley and others seem to advocate. I'm not just like pinning a straw man here, but it does seem that the national conservatives and others would prefer a theocracy to a constitutional republic.
There are definitely some that would. I'm not sure that Hawley's quite one of them, but he certainly has similarities with folks in that camp. Personally, I'm a pluralist. I think America is a non-sectarian society, and it should be. And culture is upstream of politics. So while I would advocate as an individual for the values and morals that my religion and other religions that share many of its values, whether that's Islam or Judaism, teach, I don't think America is a religious or sectarian state. I think it can be a religious but non-sectarian society in a lot of ways. And so I think that both the state and the church, are stronger when it's clear which is which.
Right. It is nice to live in a country where someone like myself, who holds to my very, very, limited worldview in terms of, the population, can live and exist freely versus, someplace like Qatar, Dubai, or the United Arab Emirates, where the government represents, a certain religion and enforces it on the population. But back to what Senator Josh Hawley argues is the problem, in regards to masculinity. He says that Epicureanism, well, that's hedonism, right? But he says that um, the collapse, so the marginalization of fatherhood, marriage, and traditional family arrangements have indeed contributed to the problems presently besetting American men at alarming rates. So, explain that to us.
He's arguing that, the lack of sort of adult formation that you're seeing in a lot of young men is in many ways related to the reality, which I again think that he's not unreasonable in pointing out, that we don't necessarily call them to adulthood anymore in a societal way. And I think that there are a lot of folks, both religious and non-religious, who would agree with the idea of young people trying to forge lives in which they take responsibility for others and for the broader community and society in which they find themselves, in which they develop their virtues and try to overcome their faults, right? A sort of idea of being an adult that means having some other regard and some responsibility for those around you. And I think we have in many ways lost that in terms of advocating that things be easy, or that rights come without responsibilities. And I think we've done that for boys and for girls, but I think that boys have largely been disproportionately impacted by it.
And so, what's the solution in your mind then, Elizabeth?
So I agree with you. I think that, the solution is mostly individual, right? I think there are a lot of ways in which individual parents, individual families, and I would say non-governmental communities, religious communities and other, have a role to play in terms of trying to inculcate some of these values in whatever culture or religious or non-religious setting they wish to inculcate them in. But I also think there's some role for policy. Richard Reeves is book of Boys and Men is one great place to look for certain policy ideas. I don't necessarily agree with every idea he puts forth or think that they're all particularly practical, but I think he has a lot of good ideas about the ways in which education needs to change, the ways in which other institutions need to change in order to make them more habitable and formational for young men.
There it is. Elizabeth Grace Matthews opining for this today for very first appearance on the Wake Up America show. If you like the content that you're hearing today, make sure you click like and subscribe. Elizabeth, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners this morning before we let you go today?
Thank you so much for having me on. You can find me on Twitter at Elizabeth G. Matt, and my website with all my work is linked there.
All right, there it is, Elizabeth G. Matt. She is a visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and a contributor to Young Voices, making her first appearance on the show. Really liked your review of Josh Hawley's book. Thank you very much for sharing it with us, Elizabeth, and we hope to have you back on again sometime.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. What did you think of Elizabeth Grace Matthews? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573 319-15886. I got to look something up for you real quick. Good people, good things, bad people. That takes religion. And the reason why, I'm focused on religion to an extent in that conversation is because if you read her book review, where she talks about, she does talk about the post-religious society, but I'm reminded of a Steven Weinberg quote, when I brought up the idea of, atheists and agnostics aren't flying planes into buildings. With or without religion, good people can behave well and bad people can do evil. But for good people to do evil, that takes religion. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Send us a text at 573-319-1586 if you'd like to have your thoughts on the show. Somebody just texted in this morning from the 573. Looks like John's texting in, says, "Good morning, Austin." Well, good morning to you. Glad to have you here. And you can always text us and let us know what you think about what we're talking about. I know that a lot of people disagree with me on that topic, but I do have to stand up for what I believe in. Dwayne Lauderdale says, "Those types of people you are talking about, Austin, the put prayer back in school people, will be shocked when they realize there are thousands of Christian denominations that aren't theirs." Yes, that is very true. Dash says Elihu Palmer and Payne would be rolling in their graves. They would if they were zombies. I'm glad to have you all here this morning. I love seeing a nice big audience over on Rumble, especially. You can let's see. Do us a favor if you're watching us on Rumble right now. We got 61 people watching us. Click that like button on the channel. Help us to get the message out there of economic freedom and personal liberty. Will Run Riot says we almost need a theocracy just to inject some morality back up into the country, or at least stop demonizing Christianity and actually encourage people to attend church. Which form of Christianity, though? There's a lot of forms of Christianity. He says in modern era, secularism is almost synonymous with hedonism. Almost. But not quite. If you go completely logical, you can do evil too. Absolutely. And no one will forget the crimes of atheistic communism. But of course, I would simply argue that atheistic communists replace the idea of God with government in order for them to justify their committing of evil. Good people will do good things. Bad people will do bad things. But for good people to do bad things, that takes religion, right? A religion like communism. The state, the government, supreme. Okay, I've got this unbelievable story. I'm going to play this clip for you here. NYC bias suit. You're going to laugh your ass off. Black and Hispanic New Yorkers who failed teachers' tests strike $1.8 billion in a settlement in New York City. Listen to this. Failing the New York State teachers exam really paid off, especially for a Queens man who learned this month he's getting a $2 million windfall over it. Now, this is the guy. I'm going to play a clip for you from this guy who is going to get this $2 million. Hold on, I wasn't prepared to pull that up. Grab the clip. I don't have a producer, so Austin's got to do all this on his lonesome. Here we go. Okay, now this is the gentleman, and I don't know if this guy was a teacher, but please understand that these are people. He was trying to become a teacher, and imagine that there are probably teachers out there who are like that. This is a man who tried to take the teacher's test and failed, and a lot of people who were teachers, in order to maintain their certifications, were required to take the test and failed, and they're now getting $1.8 billion because they failed the test because the test was apparently biased. Take a listen to Mr. Grimm talking about him failing the test many times. This is him in his home. Take a listen.
And they knew I wasn't taking them serious because I just wasn't taking them serious. Why would you send me letters and tell me about lawsuit, because I know lawsuit either they go through or they won't go through. From reading, hearing news, and all that stuff. And I know a couple of people that had well, not in education, but they went through lawsuits and they didn't win or anything like that. So to me, it's just like fabric. Either but it's when I finally got it in my head, they kept pushing and kept explaining things piece by piece until I started getting in my head and just listened to them, and it went from there.
Okay.
But still today, I don't really believe it. But yes, they've been on the phone for a long time, trying to convince me that it's real, it's no game, it's no falsehood and all that stuff. But it's not.
It is.
I'm a normal person. I had to struggle for money.
So you got that all right. What? No, you didn't get it? What do you mean you didn't get it? Hold on. Like, do you want me to play it again? Like, this is Mr. Graham. He's going to get $2 million from taxpayers in the state of New York because he failed to pass a teacher certification test. This is the man who wants to be a teacher. And of course, $1.8 billion will be passed out to people like Mr. Grimm because allegedly the test that was used against him, or I guess according to the courts, the test that was used against him was biased. This is a man who wanted to teach your children. And please believe me, these are the people who are teaching your children. Here he is.
Taking them serious.
You get that?
Because I just wasn't taking them serious. Would you send me letters and tell me about
for sure
lawsuit? Because I know lawsuit either they go through or they won't go through. From reading, hearing news, and all that stuff. And,
all that stuff.
I know a couple of people that had well, not in education, but they went through lawsuits and they didn't.
A couple of people who what?
So to me, it's just like fabric. Either. But it's.
Did you hear that little chirp there? Okay, so that little chirp that you're going to hear in the background there, I don't want to get too off of the subject here because I really want you to digest what he's saying here. This person is going to get $2 million of taxpayer money. That chirp that's going on in the background, that's a smoke detector going off. When you hear that chirp, that means that your smoke detector is low on batteries. So this is a man who wants to teach the future generation of children, but who doesn't have the intelligence to know that his smoke detector is telling him that he needs to change the batteries in his home. But he wants to teach your kids. And since he couldn't teach your kids because he couldn't pass the education test, then he's going to get $2 million for this bias test. But again, hear him out, right? Listen to what he has to say. Try to ignore the smoke detector in the background and really focus in on what he's saying because he is making some important points here.
I finally got it in my head. They kept pushing and kept explaining things piece by piece until I started getting in my head and just listened to them, and it went from there.
Okay.
But still today, I don't really believe it. But yes, they've been on the phone for a long time, trying to convince me that it's real, it's no game, it's no falsehood and all that stuff. But it's not. I'm a normal person. I had to struggle for money.
If that's a normal person, then what do we call a retard in this country? I mean, that's a normal person. That is a normal person, right? Roughly 5,200 Black and Hispanic ex-Big Apple teachers, so people who were teachers, and once aspiring educators are expected to collect more than $1.8 billion in judgments when the city stopped fighting this 3-decade-long federal discrimination lawsuit that found that a certification exam was biased. It was biased against people like that who don't know what a a fire detector sound, smoke alarm sound is when it's time to change your batteries. I'm starting to sound like him. That's what happens when you listen to these kind of people. Imagine what the kids would have sounded like if they came out of it. Have you ever seen Peppa the Pig, or heard of the phenomenon of these young American kids who will watch Peppa the Pig and they'll come out with British accents? I saw kind of a funny analog to that the other day where there was some American show in the UK and British parents were complaining that their children had, or it was kind of like a cute TikTok video. They had a British child that were saying things like car instead of car, right? Now they didn't have a British accent because they had been watching American shows. Now take that and turn it into a schoolroom. Imagine, and this is again, this gentleman right here, he had bought he had invested in preschools, right? So he was planning on teaching that age of children, and he was hoping that he was going to be able to have access to kids so that he could teach them what exactly? Well, imagine what those kids would sound like if they had come out of his preschool after having talked to him all
They
day.
knew I wasn't taking them serious because I just wasn't taking them serious. You know, would you send me letters and tell me about lawsuit? Because I know lawsuit either they go through or they won't go through. You know, from reading, hearing news and all that stuff. And I know a couple of people that.
All right, well, we're going to go on. Next is Daniela Pensack to talk about the Jason Aldean song. It's a new update in that story from yesterday. Apparently, Country Music Television decided to pull the Jason Aldean music video for being offensive. Another singer, Sheryl Crow, on the attack against Aldean for this horrible racist song. What could it be that's triggering the left so much? Well, it could be the Wake Up America Show. When we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're glad to have you here. Hope you're all doing well. If you're enjoying the content that you're watching this morning, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel so that you can get updates when we go live, which is every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. We're glad to have all the support this morning. We have just been doing fantastic. Coffee sales this morning are just through the roof. Thank you so much, guys. If you haven't seen already, my wife and I last week launched our patriotic Founding Flavors coffee brand, and we are inviting you to take the Founding Flavors challenge. Buy a bag today, and if you like the coffee, consider a switch. It's absolutely delicious. Today I'm drinking Washington's Revolutionary Roast, a nice medium blend, but if you like dark roasts, I recommend Adams's Patriotic Perk. And for those of you who really like lots of caffeine, get that light roast, the Jeffersonian Java. You can see right over here. There we go. Yes, the Jeffersonian Java, absolutely delicious. And for those of you who can't stomach, I keep wanting to say vaccines instead of caffeines. But for those of you who can't stomach caffeine, try Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, a delicious decaf. You can get that at ap4libertyshop.com. And looks like we've been selling a lot of bags this morning, so thank you for that. We take that money and we reinvest it right back into spreading the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. But not a lot of people really love that message. Some people don't enjoy that message. Some people get turned off by that message, and some people think that message is racist. Jason Aldean, country music star, is receiving a backlash after a music video that he produced is being called shameful. Country Music Television apparently yanked the song, and now everybody's talking about it, including us and our next guest, the lovely Daniela Pensack. She is a Turning Point USA field representative, and she's joining us right now. Good morning, Daniela.
Good morning, Austin. Thanks for having me. And yes, this music video has made quite a stir. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already heard of it, listened to it, or saw it, but in the music video, it kind of references like BLM riots and rioting that has happened since the George Floyd death in 2020, and many of the riots that happened afterwards. So, and it has caused quite a stir. A lot of big media, liberals and big media, are saying that this is a modern day lynching, and that is it's pro-gun propaganda, and all these stuff. And yes, the song has been pulled, but despite that, I feel like all this talk surrounding the song is just popularizing it, and I think it's hitting like #1 on the charts, or it was at some point, and people are just loving this song, and I think for the right reasons, considering what we have seen in the last few years.
So I saw Sheryl Crow is attacking him. Country Music Television pulled the music video. I would think that country music would not exactly be the listenership of that would be like the left. Do you think there's a chance that this goes Bud Light on CMT?
And that's an interesting question, and I think it's very much possible. Listen, the song, last I've heard, it has been very popular. It has been like hitting #1 on the charts at some point. So there is a base for it that is listening to it. I just think that it's more of like the face of big media, and all these stars are coming out like that. Was it another singer you mentioned that has mentioned it? Crow is her name, I think you
Sheryl
said?
Crow, yeah.
Sheryl Crow, thank you. And Sheryl Crow has come out and talked about it. So yeah, I think I think the media's face is trying to like push back against it, because this song, I guess, is too based for them and they can't handle it. But I think there's a base of listeners, there are core listeners that do appreciate the song and appreciate the message of the song, and I think there is a possibility that it may go Bud Light. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Jason Aldean, essentially his song is the message of his song is, hey, let's not rob old ladies and burn down cities. and that message is somehow racist. What?
Imagine that, right? Imagine lawlessness imagine going against lawlessness being a bad message. Essentially the message goes against like the big city violence that we have been seeing. And it kind of talks about the virtues of, living in a small town and the virtues of living in a small community and where they protect each other and protect their own kind. And I think I think it's a good message. And I think it's more so a common sense message. And it appears that people don't appreciate common sense anymore, and that, following the law and ending lawlessness is actually a good thing. But no one wants to really realize that anymore.
I mean, if you were to boil down Jason Aldean's music video to one single message, all he's really saying there is, "Don't tread on me."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people don't like that.
Yeah, no, of course not. They say we can rape, we can kill, we can burn, we can mutilate, we can steal from you. But if you dare claim that you will try and defend yourself, we will do to you what we're doing to Daniel Penny, the man who in New York City was the Marine who is now being, indicted for manslaughter for defending himself and others on the New York subway. They don't want us to defend ourselves, Daniela, because they want us to be victims. They want to victimize us, and they want to do it with impunity. And when one of us stands up and says, "Hey, don't tread on me," and flips them the bird, they use the same old tactics: racism, sexism, homophobia, misogyny, and all this kind of stuff. But all they're really doing is outing themselves and showing themselves for what they are: the racists, the murderers, the rapists, and the thieves. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all. That's absolutely right. What the elites want, you could say, or what the technocracy wants. They want us to be weak. They want the general masses to be weak and not to be able to defend ourselves, like you had mentioned, because they want they want one single message, and they want a homogenous ideology and in the PC culture. They want everyone to be safe in their own little pods, and just consuming the media that they give them. And I think the song in this message kind of goes against that. And you're absolutely right. That's why everyone's kind of reacting to, and that's why we see publications like Newsweek and the Daily Beast and so forth, and other stars go out and say that this is, this song is for modern day lynching, which is just disgraceful and absolutely wrong.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad to have you here. Click that like button where you're watching us right now. I see you over there on Rumble, enjoying my content and not clicking that like button. What's wrong with you? Come on, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so that we can spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. We appreciate y'all for joining us this morning as well over on YouTube too. Let's get some more likes this morning. We appreciate it very much. Now, I don't know what hair color you actually have, Daniela, but you do strike me as a type that, like, if I were to think of like Snow White, like you would be like typecast as like the perfect like Snow White type, like, because maybe I can see, and I'm not just trying to tease you here, like a little bit of a dark roots up there in your hair, because Snow White does have hair that was black as ebony, skin as white as snow, right? And like, red lips and things like that. But did you ever think that there would be a day that would come when you would not be the ideal Snow White? You couldn't get cast as Snow
Yeah.
White in modern society.
Isn't that really interesting? Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And as far as Snow White goes, there is a lot of I'm sure everyone's aware, you guys talked about it. There's a lot of controversy surrounding what's happening, especially with them eliminating the dwarves now. In the title, it said Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The dwarves are a foundational piece to the story, but it looks like we can't have that for the sake of I guess not being bigots, but I mean, it's a big part of the story. And yeah, in Snow White, it's really interesting that I didn't want to mention it, but it's very much true that her skin isn't white. And it's almost like they're kind of ignoring the entire purpose of the story. And they're just trying to. There's a lot of questions as to why they're trying to do this. I feel like they're just trying to change the narrative completely, which I guess, the skin is one thing. I'm going to look past the skin because I don't know. I guess I don't want to be called a racist, but at least as far as the dwarfs go, maybe I'll risk being called ableist. But we can't. How can you have the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs without the dwarfs? Now they're having seven magical creatures, which they don't even look like magical creatures to me. They look like humans just wearing tattered clothes. There's no dragon, there's no centaur, there's nothing going on there. So I have no idea what to expect, and this is really gonna. I feel like it's gonna bomb in the box office moving forward.
Our Volt 24 says snow black and the 7 persons of height. Very funny.
Exactly.
We're glad to have our listeners with us this morning. You can send us a text today at 573-319-1586. I think that a lot of this stuff, that the left is really just, they're reaping what they sow, because I saw that Indiana Jones, it's not necessarily a box office bomb, but it didn't do anywhere near what they wanted it to do. I mean, what's it going to take, do you think, for the left to learn their lessons and realize that if they continue to go woke, they're going to go broke?
Yeah, how many lessons do they have to learn? I know it's almost like, they're sadomasochists. They just appreciate getting losing in the box office every time and losing money with their products. I don't know how long it will take. It may take quite a few more years. To be fair, this backlash, or at least this strong of a backlash by consumers, has only been happening for the last, I don't know, few years. Arguably, you can say few months since Bud Light, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say like for a couple years. I think it's gonna take a long while until they start realizing this, and we already have seen a few concessions starting. Um, for instance, like the Barbie movie situation that's coming out this week, I believe. Like we have seen, like I mentioned previously, Mattel coming out and saying it's not a feminist movie. After one of the crew has mentioned it's a feminist movie. So people are starting to realize that once you go woke, there's potentially that you can go broke, and some of them are starting to realize that. And thankfully, I think we are going to see the tides turn in the next couple years or so. I don't think it's going to be too long, but it will take a while, because they have set this narrative, and they want to follow through with it, because there's probably a bigger agenda at play here. I can't exactly say what that agenda is, but they are trying to set a narrative. But thankfully, because the masses seem to be very much conscious of what's happening, we may see a change start happening. I'm going to be optimistic about it. I know a lot of people are not as optimistic, but I'm going to try to be optimistic, because since the Bud Light scandal, I think that has opened a door to a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really like that optimistic view of things, Daniela. I am the same way. I'm definitely a big white pill guy, not a black pill guy. But sometimes when you see stories like this next story, it can make you want to take the black pill. The Biden DoD lets transgender service members skip deployments, receive indefinite physical fitness waivers. What's this?
Yeah, so since by the Biden administration, has taken over. The Trump's trans ban in the military has been lifted, so we have been seeing more trans-identified individuals serve. And what this 34-page memo has revealed to us, that has been shown to the public just recently, that taxpayer-funded procedures are being done on these trans individuals, and this includes like voice feminization surgery, voice therapy, body augmentation, top and bottom surgery, all of this taxpayer funded. But and that's just a few of a plethora of services and benefits that it provides. But also, like you'd mentioned, more concerning is that they waiver physical standards, and they waiver grooming standards, and not that kind of grooming. I
Right,
mean
right.
hair grooming. But
Yes.
yeah, and it is a big deal, and I hope the media talks a little bit more about it going forward. I've seen just a few right-wing websites mention it so far, but this is very, very concerning, because once you start wavering uh, physical requirements, I mean, obviously, I mean that could potentially set us up for danger.
So why?
Well, I think it's because they're just trying to appease a certain base of people, and they're trying to make the administration or parts of the administration look good, but they're sacrificing our national integrity for that. And that's one of the main reasons why, and I think me and many others have a problem with the Biden administration, because they're just trying to appease a certain base of people, and that's not going to go very far. In fact, it's going to put us in danger in the long run.
I cannot disagree with you, so I will not disagree with you, Daniela Pensack. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners today before we let you go, Daniela?
Nothing of substance, but I will say, follow me on social media, the official Daniela Pensack on Instagram and TikTok. Follow me on TikTok before I get banned, and follow me on Twitter as well. It's just Pensack Daniela, and I'd love to chat with you on there as well.
There you go, Daniela Pensack. Thanks for your weekly guest appearance here on the Wake Up America show every Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Central. But since you're on the West Coast, you're up 2 hours earlier than the rest of us. So
Yes,
we're
I
great.
am.
Yes, we are super grateful for your time, Daniela. Maybe try a little Founding Flavors coffee if you're a coffee drinker. Thanks so much.
I'll look into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. That's Daniela Pensack. We appreciate her. Send us a text. What do you think of Daniela Pensack? All right, so here I am with 15 minutes left of show to go and no more stories. So you know what that means? You got a tap dance. All right, I'm going to figure out something to do. We'll find some topic for you when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. I'm glad to have you here. How you feeling? Good, good. Well, if you're in such a good mood, do us a favor and click that like button on the channel. We'd be very grateful to have your support. It's exciting when we see 70 people watching us over on Rumble this morning, but man, I know it's hard to get them likes on Rumble. 69 watching us now. Nice. But yeah, last night I was on Elijah Schaffer's show, Slightly Offensive, and he had like 600 people watching live on Rumble, and you know, I'm like totes jelly. And but I look at the like count and it was so low. I don't know what it is. I think it's just really hard to get people on Rumble who are on the comment section. Perhaps if you're watching us on your mobile phone, maybe it's not easy to find the like button on there, and that's why a lot of people don't do it. But I don't beg very often, but I'm begging you. If you're watching us on Rumble, click that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm really trying to grow over there, and I'd love to be able to be as cool as Elijah Schaffer one day. I look up to him. Daniela Pensack says, thanks so much. She appreciates Tolly Owen's kind words. She always enjoys Daniela Pensack's segments. We love having Daniela on. It really is a treat to have her on once a week on the Wake Up America show. We miss her when she's gone. And we love our audience over on Rumble and YouTube. I think they like Daniela as well. 70, 80, 90, 100 people watching us live between Rumble and YouTube right now. Thank you. It really is an honor. I work very hard. I work so hard to bring you an awesome show and to bring you great content and great guests, just like Daniela, and topics like these that I pulled like a rabbit out of a hat. Found this at the very last minute. And since we've been talking this morning about my new brand of Founding Flavors coffee, it's time to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, or how you are programmed to be poor. You know, in today's society, many people unknowingly carry certain beliefs that hinder their financial progress, from the educational system that wants to keep us all poor workers, obedient factory workers. But there are also a lot of subtle influences that steer us towards fiscal behaviors and decisions that often result in financial struggles rather than prosperity, right? Like an unseen script that's guiding our actions, right? Influencing us to make choices that keep us from achieving our wealth potential. Now, I have broken out of the matrix, right? I've got my own business, my own show. I'm out there, and I'm next week I'm producing a documentary, and it's huge risk. I could fail phenomenally, right? But you know what? So far, so good, right? And this morning we've sold a lot of bags of coffee, and that's really exciting. But let's talk about some of the ways that people are programmed to be poor. And one of them really is the educational system, right? And being taught that financial education really isn't necessary, right? We are, from an early age, you know, we're taught to prioritize subjects like math or science or literature over financial literacy, right? And this idea, you know, the fact that they don't teach us fiscal literacy in school is a good sign of where our government and our government schools really wants us to be focused, right? A lot of people go into adulthood, and I certainly did, without a grasp on concepts like budgeting, investing, or understanding credit. Wouldn't it be nice if in high school they had done like mock stock market stuff, where they gave you like fake bucks and taught you how to trade on the stock market, and you know how to do safe investments, medium safe investments, or risky investments and things like that, and maybe learn what an exchange traded fund was, or gold and silver, like our friends at learcapital.com. Visit them at learaustin.com and sign up for a free gold and silver information kit, right? So understanding money, how to manage it, invest it, and grow it is a fundamental part of achieving financial security and wealth. Also, another thing that they teach us, and this is, I know a lot of you, this is holding on to you. This has got its claws in you, and you're going to have to let it go if you want to achieve the kind of financial security that will come from entrepreneurship. But advocating for job security over entrepreneurship, right? Society often argues that pursuing a traditional career provides more security and stability than venturing into entrepreneurship. And that programming starts early. The education system emphasizes job preparation over business creation. So a lot of people opt out for perceived safety of a steady paycheck, right? Instead of the uncertain rewards of entrepreneurship, right? And I deal with this every day. Like every month, I have to write a check for my healthcare, $600 for my own individual healthcare, $600 for my wife's. We pay a lot of money for our healthcare check, and I got to be honest. I get nervous every month when that check comes and I have to pay it. But thank God, almost 1 year here, the Wake Up America show, I've been able to meet those obligations through entrepreneurship. If I can do it, and I'm kind of a dumb guy and I majored in musical theater, I guarantee you, the audience members are smarter than I am, and you can do it as well. But, degrees that only provide jobs for teaching the subject are not career paths. Okay. They are Ponzi schemes. Wealth comes from creating goods, services, and businesses that are wanted in the marketplace. Find a niche, right? What is it that people want? And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. For example, this coffee business, right? I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm finding good quality products that I know people want, and I'm moving into the marketplace. And yeah, it might be competitive, but I've got my own brand. I've got my own talk show in the morning that I can market to. And because it's a morning show, people are like, oh, they're in a coffee mood. So this is a great product for them, right? And so just think, it's not just necessarily that you have to, come up with the next Apple computer. You could sometimes just find something that people really like and want and move into a marketplace, right? So advocating for job security over entrepreneurship. Another one, encouraging instant gratification over delayed satisfaction. Yes, right. So instant gratification is constantly promoted to us, right? With one-click purchases, same-day deliveries. We're programmed to seek an immediate satisfaction, and that can actually come at the cost of our financial health, right? So impulse buying, consumer debt, right? The neglect of long-term financial planning, right? This discourages saving and investing and waiting for the benefits of compound gains to take effect, right? But you have to practice delayed gratification. It's also good for your sex life as well. Fear of calculated risks, right? And Stephanie grapples with this one. My wife really fights with this one because she is not a risk taker, whereas I am a go big, go broke, go home kind of a guy, right? So that's obviously, I ran for president at 34 years old, right? But calculated risks, right? Not like wild, insane risks, but we're taught to seek stability and predictability, and often we hear phrases like "better safe than sorry," right? For example, but that programming can limit our willingness to take calculated financial risks, like investing in the stock market or starting a business, right? Another one, propagating a scarcity mindset over an abundance mindset, right? Our culture often propagates a scarcity mindset, suggesting that resources are limited and that one person's gain is another person's loss. We talked about this earlier, the zero-sum game idea. But that programming influences us to view wealth as a zero-sum game. That's why socialists are socialists, because they think if Mark Zuckerberg's is a billionaire, he's got $1 billion, then he must have taken it from someone, right? But that's not how it works, right? People who have an abundance mindset, we view wealth as something that can be created and expanded, right? And that opens you up to new opportunities for financial growth. Breaking free from the scarcity mentality is essential to embracing the potential for financial abundance, right? This is a great article, but I'm not going to have time to finish it because we are getting to the end of the show, unfortunately. I do think that this is a great topic and something we'll have to continue on. Oh, my lovely wife is here. Good morning, Stephanie. Nice to see you, beautiful. I'm coming home to you soon. I just got to record the audio for the movie, and then I will be home very soon. I'm going to run. It's been a great show. Thanks for buying all the coffee. Don't forget to check out ap4libertyshop.com. You can get delicious Founding Flavors coffee. Many of you have already bought coffee this morning, which is super awesome. We're grateful for that. Give yourselves a round of applause. Click that like button and subscribe to the channel before you leave. I see you over there, Rumblers. Glad to have you here. Looks like I've got some trolls over on Rumble. I see that. Thank you, Nelson. I'm removing them forever. They are banned. Gone. Thank you for that. You're being spammed and trolled, Nelson65. Thank you very much. They're gone now. Before you leave, Rumblers, click that like button and subscribe. We appreciate you very much. It's time for me to go. But before I do go, I think I'm going to let us go out with Johnny Cash singing Barbie Girl. And we'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I'm a Barbie girl, in a Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair, undress me everywhere. Oh, come on, Barbie, let's go party, 'cause I'm in a Barbie world.
Bye, guys.
I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world.
I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders. There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.